Hello, my name is Chris Odom. I am the ELA coordinator for secondary schools. Welcome. This will be a small video tutorial about how to get in and access the curriculum, as well as how to find the documents you might need on the district website, and some small efforts to get you started on navigating our resource, which is called StudySync. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just navigate to our district website. And you'll see that up on the screen right now. So you're at kcpublicschools.org. And from there, you would want to go into the staff button. And once you're in, it'll prompt you to log in, like I already did. So let me try that one more time. Staff, there it is. Okay, so your username and your password. This would be the password that you use for most things to get in your computer. You can see for my username, I hope it worked fine. Looks like it did. I didn't put the rest of @public-schools on the end. I just put C Odom, which is the start of it all. Okay, so now I'm in staff. And you'll see that some different things are available at the bottom. It's also changed the background picture. And you see some of our staff members from the district. You see Dr. Bedell, Dr. Davis, and I'm not sure who these other people holding the check might be. But down here, you run into Teacher's Lounge. Okay, so that's where you would want to go to start to access some of the curricular documents that we have. And so from here, you'll see that it kind of opens up down below. You're going to want to find the secondary curriculum if you're working with us in 7 through 12, or you might have a 6th grade class as well, because StudySync is using 6th grade materials. And there's some maps in the elementary. There's also maps for 6th grade in the secondary side. Okay, so I'm going to go into secondary curriculum. You'll see that this is our awesome homepage with all of our departments represented. And there I am making the picture. So I'm part of this awesome group that we are called Curriculum and Instruction. Okay, so you'll also see some navigational tools at the top. Really just going in this way is probably the easiest because you can pick exactly the grade level you're after. Let's just choose 7. Okay, and then there's 2 main ways to use this page. The scope and sequence is available and contains really some navigational information that will help you decide which standards you're teaching and in what order and how the progression of those standards works if you follow them from top to bottom. So I've also included the StudySync language that's included in the resource that explains really the name of the lesson that's actually in StudySync and its correlation to which Missouri Learning Standard. So if you follow this path from top to bottom, it's going to lead you through the entire unit. And at certain points, you'll see where the focus might change, like where we see story beginnings and descriptive details and narrative techniques. This is actually an indicator that you have started doing the extended writing project. And I will show you where that is in another map. After they start the extended writing project, it's about halfway through each unit that the students would begin to write about the essential question instead of just read about the essential question. So that same essential question that frames the unit is the one that then they turn to when they start to do the extended writing project. And then they do a number of lessons about specific grammar concepts and learn how to apply those directly back to their own writing. Okay, so again, this is just the scope and sequence, but it's a really good document to kind of help you frame what's next, where do I go from here, what's the lesson that follows this one, and again, that language on the left side, I'll show you how it correlates to some maps that are inside of StudySync. Also in this map are the scope, are proficiency scales. So these are a good way you open those up to really understand all of the elements that go into one standard and might give you some ideas about how to kind of move toward proficiency. In this scale, I'll just open them real quick. The number 3 represents the proficiency level at grade level. Number 4 is really moving toward beyond the proficiency level, and a little more advanced ability. So take note of those as we're really trying to work toward this level of instruction all unit. The two category features a lot of the words and concepts we might consider more foundational. This isn't a checklist by any means that you're going to do everything here, but it's something to help you plan and expect to see, some gaps in learning so that you might know that some of this language might be necessary in explaining it to students. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the page that we started and we found the scope and sequence on. This document actually has all 6 of those just on one page if you wanted to print them out for the entire year. Here is Q1 and what we would call then the curriculum map. And for these, I have pulled them directly from StudySync so that you would see the familiarity when you look inside of the unit with the exact language that can help you find your place and know where you're going. So in a unit map like this one, it specifies the first reading, the amount of days we would spend on that reading, the skills that will be associated with that reading, pardon me, and then actually even lessons that are ready and part of the system for reteach, because we plan on needing to go over some of these things more than others based on the results of the first time when we're looking at all of our student data and outcomes. Okay, so really just scrolling through this map will help you see the second reading in 7th grade is The Wise Old Woman. Far fewer skills here that you'll see in the second reading. There is a reason for that. The skills that we're setting up here in this groundbreaking kind of foundational unit are part of what's called a sync start unit, which are really all the skills that they're going to get a little bit of introduction to that they'll use in every unit. So we teach them how to annotate early on in the year because annotation will be part of every lesson as it goes on. Here, as they get into The Wise Old Woman, we're really focusing on 2 main concepts, summarizing and theme. Okay, in Woodsong, we're more pointed toward connotation and denotation and author's purpose and point of view. And this is the reading that will help us spur that conversation and has activities along the way for us to measure how we're doing. Okay, each reading follows a certain structure of a first read, some skill instruction, and then followed by a close read, so that when you're in StudySync, you know you've pretty well finished a reading when you've concluded with the close read. But you're not done teaching. That just means that you've learned some of the things during that unit that you're going to want to go back to intentionally in the spotlight skills so you can fill in some of those needs and areas of growth. Okay, so like I said, there's one of those for each unit. And originally, the units would probably be about 6 weeks long. However, we're really only shooting to get all the way through Unit 5. So this gives you a little bit of flexibility in the event that you've either started late or really going over some more print-related material to start the year. That would be acceptable. If you need any help reading the diagram, there's a nice explanation and a color-coded way to see what everything means right here in this link. Okay, so that is basically how to find the curriculum documents. Let me show you how to get in the resource. Okay, so to get inside of the district resource, we will always use Clever. Clever is a program that helps us connect 2 programs together. So when you Google Clever and you're in a district computer, you may or may not come up with the right Clever. In this case, I'm not even up to the right Clever because it doesn't say Welcome Kansas City Public Schools at the top. I have a link that I have made and saved for myself that I would recommend that we use. And let's see if I can mine for that and show you the difference really quick. And I'll just go back into my own email and find it because I know it came from one of my colleagues. I'm pretty sure it came from a certain person. Well, I hadn't planned on this moment, so let me make sure I just look for the person that sent it to me. I remember it was very helpful, and it's more a direct link to getting to where we're at instead of having students wonder and wander. Any of the trimming we can do so they don't wonder and wander so much is really helpful. So this particular link Watch the difference when I use this one. There we go. So this is really where you want to have people end up. And this link you can find and access back on Teachers Lounge. When you go in here, I think you can get directly to a Clever link. Might be wrong. It's a great tutor training video, Mr. Odom, when you're wrong about things. Okay, so Clever's not necessarily in here and hanging out in the Teachers Lounge. Make sure that we do get you this exact link that'll get you straight to this front page. Because when you're working with students, there's a lot of different Clevers. You can see how this one right here won't take me anywhere in particular. Let's see if I even try teacher as staff if it does know me. See, and then this screen doesn't say anything about Kansas City Public Schools. There is a way from here for you to type that in right there. But I think the superior way is to have this link. And then all you have to do is know you're in the right location, log into Clever, which I'm going to try to do, but I am a district admin. Let's see, it's trying. Okay. And in this case, your username and your login shows up on what to say. Like you don't put in the @KC Public Schools, you just put the start of that. It says, please do not use full email address. And for the password, it is your district password, which is the same one that you would potentially use to go in and find these apps that I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to try to go in as me. Probably isn't going to let me because I am an administrator password also. But let's hope maybe in this, it looks like it might. Okay, so I'm going to go into Clever here as a teacher. And hopefully it's going to show me kind of similar to what you guys would see. It's not. Okay, so this part of the video, I'm going to have to probably stop and start over. Let's see if I can go into Portal. Okay, so this should satisfy what I need. When you're in Clever, like we are here, you'll see some buttons and you'll see a way that you'll need to scroll down and ELA and social studies resources. When you see secondary ELA and math, there'll be a McGraw-Hill logo like this one, and one to the right that usually says Wonders. We do not want to use the Wonders one because it will take you to a totally different resource. But if we click in here, that McGraw-Hill document, it's going to take me to a screen that looks a little different than this one. And it's going to have the names of your classes on it. And you're simply going to click on those to go in. If you see a screen like this one, it means that your classes have not been set up for you yet. And you really don't want to do any moving around or anything here. Just simply let me know, or let's make an incident IQ request. Okay, so I'm going to go in a different way. Don't go this way because you won't really get in. But I want you to see the actual resource. Okay, so I can get in as my administrative self and I will have full access to this resource. Okay, your students will also go a similar path. They will go in through Clever and they will find that same red icon under McGraw-Hill. And then when they open their class, they'll see a dashboard that looks just like this one. Okay. Remember, you can always get a hold of me. There's a few steps to this, but once you make them things you're doing on a regular basis, it'll become really common to you and you won't have any issue. A lot of times those issues just come from a little more practice, and then before you know it, it's all running pretty smooth. Okay, so when I'm in this program, I just changed to a school, so you can see that I have 5 tabs across the top. Most of the tabs have a really good important purpose. The ones we're going to look at the most, we're going to start from right to left. Okay, so in Core ELA, you will find the content that correlates with the maps that I just showed you. Remember, we're looking at this map and we're talking about how it's going to start with Rikki Tikki Tavi, and we're going to do some annotating, context clues, comprehension. All of these skills-based lessons are going to be housed in the digital. They're also potentially, the reading is in the print text, but all of these skills-based lessons are housed in the digital side. Okay, so now I'm in the grade level that I need to be. We chose 7th grade. Notice that you have all these grade levels across the top, and that's in case you teach different subjects, different grade levels. You really have one login and you can get to everything. So potentially a good idea not to go ahead and assign content from an older grade level, because those students will need that information to be novel and fresh the next year when they take that class. So we're in grade 7. Lots of great things you could download and print off. There's a program guide. This overview is very long, but it's very thorough and very helpful. That helps you see kind of the path of instruction and how we're going to make it through the year and what we're going to do at each point. So it is very long, 192 pages. But if you wanted to rest assured that you were following the process exactly like it was designed, it's a good thing to page through and familiarize yourself with. Okay, as far as what else is in here, lots of suggestions and strategies on how to frame instruction, lots of ideas about the best practices. But then actually into the units themselves, you'll see a page that's about each reading. The readings are potentially those we're going to scaffold and prepare for. And you can see that in the Rikki Tikki Tavi, it's giving us some ideas of what some of the complex text features are going to be, talks to us about the lexile, talks to us about the skill lessons, and some of the other possibilities for learning beyond the book is kind of a way to extend each unit and do something that is obviously beyond the book. So each reading features one of these pages that kind of helps you yourself as a teacher prepare to teach it. Okay, now let's go into an actual unit. So in unit 1, core ELA, that's where we're going to start. I'm going to open that orange button. When I get here, there's a great video, and this video has some dramatic music and makes us think.
A young
I
monk
wonder
who
what the
defends his
readings will
family from
be
deadly
in this
cobras.
coming unit. It's kind of got that movie pitch feel to it, where we're left to kind of guess, predict what we're going to like to read. Looking ahead, here's what you're going to find interesting about this unit. Units are framed from an essential question. The one for this unit is, when do differences become conflicts? You can tell how it fits with the overall unit title of conflicts and clashes. And we're primarily going to study and write an example of fiction in this unit. Okay, so this page again is for the teacher to preview the unit and get ready for all of the powerful things that are going to happen. Oh my gosh, it has a poem by Naomi Shihab Nye, one of my favorite poets of all time. And you'll find that there's a lot of different genres featured in one unit to kind of keep that theme interpretable and discussable from a lot of different lenses and a lot of different perspectives. There's poetry about this. Looks like there's a narrative by Gary Soto, and there's even a teleplay. The monsters are due on Maple Street, so that we're really featuring a lot of genres as we discuss this one particular essential question. Okay, so that overview is for you. You can play this video for your students. It may be kind of one of those we're getting ready, kind of anticipatory sets. Okay, but when you're ready to start driving the lesson and teaching and instructing and assigning things, it'll all happen through this integrated reading and writing button, which is really just right below unit overview. And the way the unit works is we're going to kind of work our way down these tabs. Okay, so there's Rikki Tikki Tavi. If you remember, Rikki Tikki Tavi was listed right here as the first reading target. It's also the one associated with a sync start. There's only one sync start per year, and the sync start is at the beginning of the year to help us start the unit with some specific skills that we're really paying attention to, because we know they're going to be essential parts of every lesson. So in this start of the unit, we work on a blast. We teach kids what that is. Blasts kick off the units. They introduce the essential question, and they just get us talking about what we think this unit's going to be about. They also can do peer review in a blast and talk about what they think the best responses were for the day, and praise each other for their thinking and good writing. Okay, in the annotation, you can see if this was the first skill that we're going to assign. You have lots of tools here. The one is a full lesson plan that helps you plan your instruction. You can practice and internalize and kind of get down your routine for how you're going to teach this lesson. Okay, if I preview the lesson, you'll see that StudySync features a 4-part lesson structure for every lesson and generally moves us through these 4 tabs with something to do in each one of them so that the student is an active participant. It is not something we generally just pass out and hope for the best, but teachers lead the way and define with the students, perhaps giving them strategies and suggesting routines that we will develop and use. There's a writer's notebook concept. So a lot of times during define, students are asked to watch the concept definition, read the definition, and then perhaps jot down, the definition in their writer's notebook. There's also a lot about turning and talking and discussing. So this is essential because students practice internalizing the language and the concepts by talking about them, not just by listening about them. Okay, so in vocabulary, you can see how we made it to this second tab. That means that you would be leading. This is the student view, by the way, what they would see on their screen. But it's wise that you pull this up when you're teaching students about the process and kind of model the same steps that they're going to go through and then have them do that for you before you move on to the next step. So I might get to the vocabulary portion and ask them to do this self-scoring drag and drop. This isn't something I want to leave them a long time for, but judge kind of based on walking around and see where people are so that the second we're done, we're moving on and we're going on to the model. This will also score for you automatically so that you could revisit any concepts need attention, maybe even tomorrow. Sometimes even before they got away for the day, you could talk about some of the results of the vocabulary lesson. Okay, when I'm in the model section, again, I'll follow the directions that are embedded in this nice little teacher's edition. And the whole teacher's edition is online so that you can use this tab. You will read and analyze a model that demonstrates the steps for applying the skill in the text. Think of this as the we do part of your lesson. An I do, a you do, a we do, and then another you do. Don't forget the we do part is really going to help us center on some of the skills that we're going to want them to practice and the takeaway from the lesson. So we really need to make sure we concentrate our effort on doing a great job on the model. On this model, we're going to work on reading and annotating. So students will need to read and annotate, and you can see that there's examples provided for them for you to model from yourself, okay? If I come back up to the top, the your turn will also have the feature for them to be able to split screen just like you would in a test. And they're going to be asked in this to do some text manipulation and move these boxes where they might belong. Again, self-scoring, pretty quick, something that you really want to leave just the appropriate amount of time for, and then kind of prepare to use that data to prepare for future instruction. Okay, so that's a skill lesson. Let's show you how a first read might appear. Again, lessons are structured so that it starts with a first read, except in this first unit where it starts with lots of skills. But it starts with a first read. It embeds a couple, 2 or 3 skill lessons that would be taught in relation to this first read. And then we close down that reading by doing a close read. And in the close read, they will also be asked to write a little bit more than they were in the first read, in constructed response. And that constructed response will also feature evidence of character, evidence of textual evidence, and evidence of learning about text-dependent responses. So great way, kind of like bookends to start a reading, teach some lessons in between, and then close the bookend by doing the close read and make sure that we've hung on to all those lessons and ideas that we applied to Rikki Tikki Tavi. Okay, when we're done with Rikki Tikki Tavi and we've done what it asks, we spin that little orange guy, we go back to our next goal, and we start preparing to internalize for the next lesson. So you can see after Tavi, it's going to ask us to do big idea. So I'm going to go into big idea, and I'm going to open that one up. And in the big idea, I'm wondering which parts of the big idea would be the best to do. And it tells me we're going to do academic vocabulary and recognizing genre fiction. So in order to find those, I'm going to jump over the blast. We've already done one of those this unit, and I'm going to look for academic vocabulary and recognizing genre. So those are the most 2 essential skills we want to make sure that we apply to this lesson as it fits with this reading so well. And then we're going to go on again after we do what it suggests in the big idea. So I'd simply spin that, and we're into the wise old woman. This is really where a lot of people that I've been meeting with are right now, as we're about the third and a half week, and a lot of people got their computers a little bit later than others. So you're okay wherever you are, but it would make sense that you're following this logical progression. Okay, so wise old woman, I'm going to go back and check. It wants me to work on summarizing and theme. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select Wise Old Woman, and I'm going to look for summarizing and theme. That doesn't mean that I jump over doing the first read. I know it's not listed in that, but you should assume that all the readings and the skill lessons only work when we do them kind of in tandem together. So here for the Wise Old Woman, I'm going to get prepared. I'm going to make a lesson plan. So I'm going to go in here and internalize and read about what I'm supposed to do. And then I'm going to preview the lesson, maybe for myself, to make sure I'm really are familiar with when the students start working. If I know how to navigate for them, like I've seen it before. And we're really just going to, again, jump in and follow the very clear instructional path that is outlined for us. Okay, let's assign this and pretend like we're ready to get it out there to our students. Okay, so right next to preview is assign. Okay, it's going to title it all for me. I can change this if I want to call it something different. And then when you go into this little button where you see target, you're going to have classrooms. You're going to have various classes that are yours that are listed here. At the moment, I do not. I'm going to pretend like this is one of mine, and you'll see it pops up there, right? And that means I could assign this to one class, many classes, different people, different students. In your own situation, you'll have your students' names in here. So you can go ahead and explain, I'm going to send particular assignments to particular people and do some differentiation to send out to different groups, different tasks that they may need to revisit. Okay, so I'm going to again just do that so I can show you that after you select a group, the date for that assignment to be available comes on. A week is probably too long because sometimes that'll be how long a student might procrastinate it. But you play with these dates. 2 or 3 days is probably the best case scenario for a student to have a chance to make that up. And if you turn on this function of allow late, it will flag it when it comes into your grade book, and you'll know that it's late, but it'll still allow the student to turn it in. This feature customize is extremely important because we really want to make sure you're not giving out too big of a task so that we cause overwhelm students and kind of to stop before they ever started. You can modify the notes to the students, or you can just roll with these. You should probably leave the audio on, as this will be the reader for the text in the event that they do it by themselves, or you could play this audio for your class and we could all follow along. Okay, there's a lot of other features to leave on. If I wanted to turn off the writing part of this lesson, all I'd have to do is turn off the writing part, and the writing part is called a think. Okay, I could turn off the text for some reason and they wouldn't be able to see the text. I think I'm going to leave it on. There are focus questions that you could turn on that are additional. We're going to leave the reading quiz on because part of what I'm going to show you is how to modify that quiz. Okay, so scaffolds, I'm certainly going to suggest you leave those on, and I will try to show you those as the last thing I do. Okay, the thinks, these are the writing questions. If you go in here and turn one off, it'll let you know that maybe that's one to be sure it's not connected to another question. But if I decided I'm only going to select questions 4 and 5 as the assignments that I'm going to put out, more likely I'll get more turned in than if I gave them all 5. And then you can work toward having 3 or 4 or 5 as doing more of the things as the year goes on for each assignment. Same is true with the quiz. If I assign all 10 of these, I might just have some random guessing. But if I really want to make sure that I'm tuning just these questions, which you can see it's letting me know what they are. And I certainly shouldn't chop out a question if it's related to the one before it. You can see this one, which one best supports the correct answer to question 7. So I better leave question 7 on, or they're not going to be able to answer that. So it takes a little bit of thought, which is great. You'll make that choice as the teacher, and then you'll know you've sent out the most powerful questions and maybe taken away the ones that might take up more time than you have as a class. You can turn on the writing prompt for a first read. You really don't need to because it has different goals. In the close read, the writing prompt will be turned on. You can turn on peer reviews, which means that students will give each other feedback on the think portion of their writing. It is all entirely anonymous, but you, the teacher, get to know who says everything to each other. I wouldn't leave on student nicknames. It's a good thing to remember to turn off because often the students know exactly who each other are, and it kills the whole reason that we tried to be anonymous. When you're ready, and I'm not going to because this will put it out there for a teacher, since I'm on their account, I would just click create assignment. And that assignment will go out to all the people that I put in this target up here at one time. Okay. So that's the quick and dirty on about how to assign. Let's tell you that if you are confused, lost, wondering, or any of those things, you can go up to where you see your name in the top right corner and you can click Help Center. And this is available 24 hours a day so that you could solve some of the more frequently asked questions. You can also do a training for yourself and jump into a lot of things. The webinars that are offered are also updated every single week. And this is even current. You can see that they're offering something about project-based learning. You can see that they're offering diagnostics and beginning of year. They're offering information about how administrators can get started. So you might want to check out some of these webinars. They're quick and very powerful firsthand experiences directly from the trainers themselves. So you can find out exactly what you need when you get started. Okay, so that's everything we did. And remember to get to assignments and assign them all together. We went in through core ELA. If you need to get back to like everything that's the beginning, all you need to do is come over to StudySync, click that name, and it'll welcome you back with your name, and you'll know that you're in the right place. On this home screen are a lot of things you could go and use to learn about. So there's some tutorials about what's new. There's some cool things going on with what people are doing across the country with this resource. And there's also some powerful ways to support yourself all down here at the bottom of this entry page. So you would explore that again by going up here and then to Help Center. And then you'll find a lot of other questions that you might have answered. Also, there is a 24-hour blue button in the corner, but mostly they answer this during school business hours. So that's a live chat. And you can see right now they're really responding in about 5 minutes. They'll even tell you what the wait time is like right now if you ask them something. So all you have to do is go in there, type in your question, and a real person will respond to you on the other side. It's not even a bot. Okay, so that's a lot. I want to show you one more thing. Okay, students will have a similar view. They'll have something at the top that says binder, and that'll be where all of their work they've already completed goes. But they'll have a dashboard just like the one you see here where their assignments will show up because you've assigned them to them. One other major thing that you're going to want to know StudySync will do is provide major powerful digital scaffolds. So I'm going to show you what they look like, and then I'm going to show you how to turn them on. We're going to go back into the core ELA path, the integrated reading and writing path, and I'm going to pick the wise old woman again. I'm going to preview it for you, and then I'm going to show you the proficiency levels. And what this means is that you've formed some decision over the start of the year about where your students are and who needs some support, differentiation, and some scaffolds. So I'm going to turn on the most supported level of learners, which is English Learner Beginning. This does not mean you could not use this for students who English is not their second language, but it means that anybody that's learning English or needs more practice might benefit from some of these scaffolds. Okay, so I'm going to turn on Beginning, and you'll see a little blue box just popped up. Pretty exciting. In that the blue box is there and kind of private for the student, kind of like your blue box on the other side is also there and scaffold for the teacher. This blue box is there for the student on the left. And so when we're in the introduction and we're having a discussion, which is the goal of doing the introduction, you can see how in small groups and then in whole group, the student might need a little bit of primer of what to talk about or what language to feature. These speaking frames are a great way to practice intentionally academic vocabulary and academic voice. Okay, so when I click on read, watch the scaffolds are still here. Now I'm going to get some visual glossary, which is a really powerful way to connect to prior knowledge and then learn new specific academic vocabulary. It'll feature a text synopsis for this student so that before we're even really into the reading itself, the student can start to have a little bit more understanding than someone who has not been given this synopsis. Okay, the text synopsis itself may have some vocabulary that needs explaining. And so it's in there. And again, this is a little bit of doing, but it's again how students grow is by doing the work. So it's a good way to make sure as we're scaffolding toward a grade level text that we're still giving the student a chance to do what's called the productive struggle. Okay, the speaking frames that are in the read are again for discussion. And sometimes when we get later to the think, you'll see those same speaking frames really turn into more writing frames and supports for the writing they're going to do. The scaffolds go away when we take the quiz. You can see all 10 questions are assigned here because I haven't gone in and trimmed it like I should when I customize and put this assignment out for real. Okay, and the think button, scaffolds come back. And these are pretty powerful scaffolds in that there could be a way for us to keep up the pace with the rest of our fellow classmates and be doing similar thinking, but a little bit different work on our plate. So when I move this sentence frame over, you can see that my work is different and that I'm going to fill in the boxes, which you can do on this side before you move it over. And then you are able to, again, keep pace with us, be part of the discussion, and then have some support for your practice. There's even a word bank down here of what words would go in these blanks. So a little different project and still on grade level text and still powerful learning opportunity for a student to participate fully in the text. Okay, and then there are different levels so that as a student progresses or wants to take on more of a challenge, then we would move them up to intermediate, and then those scaffolds will be a little different, all the way to advanced high. And when I open the scaffolds in advanced high, there are more questions. You can see they're really just going to prompt thinking, but they're not going to take out they're not going to have this sentence starter frame that took away some of the writing itself. Because in that case, this student needs to do that writing themselves 100%, but you yet need some direction and some support about what to talk about. Okay, so those are pretty amazing features. How to turn those on for your students. It's really the next logical thing I could show you. So remember to drive instruction and drive the instructional path. We go in through Core ELA. After you assign tasks, they'll show up in here and they'll be listed by who's assigned what. Those are some of our current teachers out there who are assigning things since I'm inside a particular school. Also, what's awesome is if you saw I just went into users, you can do a subgroup. So you could make a smaller group of all of your classes and build that group so that something's going to go to those students on a regular basis and they're going to get modified tasks. But for the moment, I want to show you how to turn on those scaffolds that we just saw. Okay, so I'm in the users tab and I'm going to follow this gray bar over till I see users again. And I'm going to see something in the middle here that says proficiency. You can see I'm not going to change these because they've already been effectively changed by the teacher of this class. And that means that if they're turning on these particular scaffolds like I showed you, then the student is going to get those supports when they log into any of their assignments for every task that's assigned in StudySync. So it's just a matter of going in here and making that change, and it will then impart that directly to all the tasks that you see for the rest of the time. If I want to take it back out because I found that a student did not need as much support, then again, I can turn it back to none and the same thing will happen. There's also a support language, and they're working on building additionals. For the moment, they have, I think, these 9 options that might be powerful for a support language to turn on for your students if you know for a fact that that would help stabilize the approach. What it will do is the synopsis is both written and read to them in this familiar language. And the text itself does not change out of being an English text as we are practicing that the most in English class. But these particular synopsis and some of the other features may be in that support language, just kind of as an added support so the student can feel stable and aware of what the cognates are or the words that travel back and forth between languages. Okay, so really that's how you drive. That's how you make your way around in this resource. Please do get in and experiment and see where you need to go. And then reach out to me when you need any support at all, because I know this resource for a few years now, and it's really helped in helping people feel stable to talk to somebody that can help them navigate. So also how to just impart it and make it fluid in your class, or how to group your students, um, and have things be discussion oriented, to make sure that this feels interactive and not just something that we pass out and wait for it to be turned back in. So hopefully this has been some help to you. I know it's a lot of information. There's a lot of trainings that I can help you find, and we can come out and support you directly at your buildings, or virtually, however you prefer. Hope that was great and useful in some ways. Have a wonderful day.